So I just want to say a very pleasant good night to each and every one of you. Some of you have participated last year, so we welcome you back. We are happy to have you, and we are happy that you're still interested in gaining knowledge and strengthening your skills in leadership. So, and for our newcomers, we want to welcome you to the Cnfo Leadership Institute. It's something that we started last year, and hopefully the intention is to have it every year at delivering the same module. So if you're not available for one of the sessions this year, certainly you'll be able to catch up on it next year. So my name is Nadine Nemhard, and I am here in Belize working for the Cnfo from the Belize office. Also on this call, we have the program coordinator, Mr. Michele, and he's from Antigua and Barbuda. And our leader, our current chairperson, Mr. Adrian Laroda, he sends his best wishes. He's at a function and he will join late, so maybe he says the goodbyes. And our treasurer, Mr. Palmashua Janarine is from Guyana, and he's here on the call. So I will give him a break to say hello, as he's one of the leaders, to introduce himself to the new persons on the call. Max, do you want to say some words? And then we're going to hand over to Tylon.
Hi, good night, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Nadine.
All right. So I won't say much more. I will now ask that our facilitator, Tylon, he has risen to this occasion to facilitate this session tonight. And I want to, before I forget at the end, I want to say it now. There's an open invitation to any person on this call to make a request to facilitate one of our trainings. We are hoping that we get some requests. We have 7 more modules. So the next one will be facilitated by Ms. Kejiana from St. Lucia. And I am inviting you to send me a message, an email to facilitate the 3rd to the 8th session. And what it entails is that you receive mentorship from, I call him like the best, the greatest. Some people might not agree, but that's my view. Mentor in the Caribbean when it comes to fisheries matters, Mr. Michele. We do however much sessions that you need. You will receive a PowerPoint presentation to use, and you will get guidance from him and myself on the topic. So you don't have to be concerned about that. As much time that you need, you will get. We do about 2 to 3 sessions. And if you need more than that, that's also okay with us. So I'll wait for those emails. All right, Tylon, and good night, everyone. Good night, and I will now be quiet while Tylon.
Thank you for introducing everybody to us, Nadine. So right, everybody, my name is Tylon Jospeh. I'm a director on the Goa Fishermen Cooperative Society Limited. I'm currently the PRO of the organization. I'll be your facilitator tonight. Thank you for joining me here. So let's proceed. Tonight's topic is going to be, well, firstly, the Leadership Institute. I want to thank Mitch and Nadine for taking the time out to get me ready for tonight's session. So I want to say that firstly. Let us proceed. Lady Nikki, give me some little assistance here, please. Can everybody hear me? Oh, thank you. So tonight's topic is going to be the first thing we're going to look at is exploring leadership. So firstly, we want to look at tonight, what is leadership? Why is leadership important? Who leads fisherfolk organizations, and how is that leadership carried out? So these would be the main areas we'll be looking at tonight. So what is leadership? What are we talking about? Let's look it up. Lead, be in charge or command of, organize and direct, set a process in motion, take someone or something all the way to a destination. So that is the definition of lead. A leader, person who leads or commands a group, organization or country, right? And leadership is the action of leading a group of people or an organization or the ability to do this. So these are different definitions of what a leader is, right? They're different parts of speech, right? So leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. This was a quote by John C. Maxwell. So leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Leadership is a process of social influence in which a person can enlist the aid and support of others in the accomplishment of a common task. It's also a process of social influence by a person or a group of persons to enlist the support of others to achieve a shared goal or objective. So clearly you can see right here that leadership is not done by one individual, but it could also be done by multiple persons, right? For example, you have a board of directors that would lead an organization. Oh, most fisherfolk organizations have a board of directors that would govern and lead that organization. Let's proceed. Key aspects of the what of leadership in fisherfolk organization. So influencing people and fishers. So if you want to be able to get people to commit to a goal or objective, the first thing you would have to do is be able to inspire. So you incite some feeling into them. You want to make them have that sense of get that inspiration, that will to want to do something. That following that would be the motivation. So after the person would have gotten that will to get an objective done, they would then acquire that motivation, right? So they would move from just having the will and just having the feeling to wanting to actually get physical, wanting to actually move, right? And that would incorporate some participation. So after you get that will and you are motivated, then you are inclined to participate. So you'd want to be able to, do whatever you have to do in order to get whatever activity you want done, right? So that way you'd follow participation and you have the activities you want to complete. And to get activities done, you would have one person might be able to get an activity done, but if you want to be able to get an activity done effectively or faster than more timely matter, you would have some form of collaboration. So leadership is not done by one individual, as we said before. It's a collaborative effort. So within fisherfolk organizations, you would have board of directors. Cnfo would have their board of directors, and these are the persons, these are the leaders that are the ones that are there to govern the activities of that organization. They are the ones that they are the leaders. Basically, everybody would have their distinct roles and responsibilities, but they are the ones that would basically steer and guide the organization, right? And then you would have your goals and objectives. So with goals and objectives now, you basically fisherfolk organizations would have started because of goals and objectives that they would have wanted to achieve, whether it be to increase the economic lifestyle of the fishers, or they want to increase the social look of the fishing industry, or they want to create a more sustainable environment for fishers, right? So you'd have those goals and objectives that would kind of cause you to create and that would kind of steer in a direction for leading fisherfolk organizations. And then you'd have a vision and a mission that would come up about that. So the difference between a goal and an objective to the vision is basically a goal could be a one-time thing, or it could be, in other words, to get to a point, you would have multiple goals, right? But with a vision now, you would have a plan set ahead for, let's say, 10 years or 15 years into the future. And you would have different objectives and different goals, which you would tell me your mission to get to that vision, to make sure that vision comes true, right? So that's the difference here between a goal and objective to what a vision and a mission is, right? The mission is the micro goals or so you had to be able to get to that end point, that vision that you want to achieve, whether it be to make the fishing industry more sustainable or to make the fisher folk livelihoods more better, to poverty eradication or whatever it may be, right? The mission would set out the different objectives you might have to do to get there, whether it be you might have to start with getting ice machines to make fishing more more sustainable, or you might have to get a jetty, or you might have to get some whatever provisions it might be to get to that end goal of making fishing more economical and more sustainable. Let's proceed. I'm not seeing the slide. Apologize for the slide.
Okay, I am doing a poll for you, Tylon.
Okay.
Is it on your screen?
Yeah, so this is a poll that you could take a look at here. So do you know the goals of your organization? And then you have options right here. You have yes, no, I'm not sure. Right? And then you have, does your organization has a vision and a mission statement? And you have your different options right here. Vision only, mission only, both vision and mission, right? And then you have one last question. Does your organization has a succession plan? So you have your different options that you could pick from here. I could see almost half of the participants already in, 42%. So that means we have 10 persons, 11 persons that need to submit. Okay, the submissions are coming in. They're coming in. We'll end the poll in 30 more seconds. So we have 5 persons that haven't given their responses yet. Okay, we'll end the poll here. So do you know the goals of your organization? 67% of the persons here, or well, the 10 persons that would have answered said yes. And 5 of those individuals said no. Right? Does your organization has a vision and a mission statement? Right? 80% of the individuals here, well, the 12 out of the 15 individuals would have answered is 80% of them said both vision and a mission. And 20% said they're not sure. So 3 individuals said they wasn't sure. Right? Does the organization has a succession plan? Right? So 6 persons would have identified as yes, 5 persons no, and 4 persons as I'm not sure. So these are just some questions you have to wrap your head around when you're with an organization. It's good to know your vision and your mission statement. And it's good to know what the goals and the objectives of your organization or what your organization is about. Also, it's very good to have a succession plan, right? As in you need to have that continuity within your organization. Right? So why is leadership important to small scale fisher folk? Small scale fishers are important and need to be secured, right? I mean, that is a statement of fact. Societal importance, right? So the societal importance, why small scale fisher folk are important. So small scale fishing is a way of life. So it's not just, it's a way in which we would go about. For example, I'm a fisherman. So I like to go fishing for fun. And also I like to go fishing because it's relaxing, you know, you just be able to sit down in the middle of the boat and watch up in the sky sometimes if you're frustrated or stressed out and stuff like that. And you know, you could be able to relax you and nature and God. Right. So that is it's a way of life. So it's a humbling livelihood. It's a humbling way of living. Right. And small scale fisher folks also provide food. Right. So they are food providers. Right. Just take for example, after hurricanes and stuff like that. Normally, after a storm, you would have your, well, I live in the Caribbean, so you have we're in hurricane prone zones, and after hurricanes, you just have all your agricultural produce, all your trees and stuff like that. Industry would be no more because nobody wants to visit a country where all the buildings and stuff like that are fall down and everything is dilapidated, right? And normally, so these are normally the key income revenue owners in these small island developing states. But with fisher folks and fishing, for example, even after all of these things would have happened, you normally get fishers to start fishing the next day after a hurricane. So they are kind of like a economic kickstart after hurricanes and stuff like that. So fishers are very important in providing food again, which you would have, all your trees and stuff would have fallen, and all your no more mangoes and no more avocado and stuff like that. So they provide a lot of food for individuals, and you're talking about nutritious food as well. So it's not just food, but it's the quality of the food that they provide. Fish is highly nutritious. You have a lot of omega and vitamins and other things that is very key for your overall growth and nutrition. And small scale fishing also provides for livelihood. So it brings in an income to families, right? And not just directly with the fishers and stuff like that, but also to the other individuals throughout the value chain. So you're talking about the market vendors and the persons that would walk around and sell fish, or even the persons that are employed by the exporters and stuff like that. So it provides a relatively large sum of jobs for different individuals and different households. So it's a livelihood cushion. It's also a source of revenue and income, right? Skills, knowledge, and experience can promote sustainable fisheries, right? So fishers and fisherfolk leaders have the skills and knowledge and experience that could promote sustainable fisheries, right? We have a lot of strong fisherfolk leaders throughout the Caribbean here that have the skills and the knowledge and experience, that know the industry, they know what it's about, they know what sustainability means, and they know what they need to get, they know what they need to do to be able to sustain, to promote sustainable fisheries. So to be advocates for best practices towards fishing, or managing the resources and stuff like that. They have the knowledge to do that. right? And fishers also have that knowledge, as in you would notice it in their practices that they would pick the best set of times to go fishing, because through experience and trial and error, they would have acquired those skills, right? After time, they would have perfected the art. You're talking about something that they do on a constant daily basis through their lives, right? So fishers also face threats to their livelihoods from competing interests. So you have the tourism sector, for example. The tourism sector is one of the sectors that it basically competes heavily with fishing, because they are always competing for the same space, right? So tourism, for example, has a lot of, they would want to build marinas, or they would want to build hotels on the beach side, the beachfront, and compete with fisher folks for traditional fishing grounds and stuff like that, right? And also, they would also advocate for certain policies and stuff to be passed. So, like the tourists that like to go diving and like to watch the reefs and stuff like that, they would say that, you know, no, fishers, you can't fish here no more, because we want to be able to do X, Y, Z here. And that shouldn't be the case, right? Also, conservation. So you have a lot of conservation efforts that also prevent fishers from owning livelihood. You're talking about your, for example, you have your marine protected areas. They are conservation tools that could be used and utilized to protect resources, or they are used to protect resources, but a lot of the times they are not done in a practical, feasible way, as in they don't allow for other activities to be done within that area. And a lot of the times it's not a wise decision, it's not a smart decision to go down that route. Also, we also have a lot of policies that are created that impact fishers, conservation policies that impact fishers, that doesn't necessarily have to be, in other words, it could be done in a different way that is would make everybody happy. But a lot of the times these people, the people that are pushing conservation are on the other end of the spectrum. So they don't want to see no fish die at all. And I mean, that is not what fish is here for. Fish is food, right? And then you have your oil and gas initiatives, right? Oil and gas exploration could negatively impact fisheries and fishing in a large scale. Just take, for example, the Nabarima that was there by Trinidad. If, for example, the oil were to spill from that, you're talking about the ecological disaster that could impact not just Trinidad and Tobago, but Grenada, St. Vincent, and all those that are in line of that current, because we just get the Orinoco flow and stuff like that here. So you know, the currents could bring the oil all the way up to our waters, and it's all the way across in Trinidad. So you know, the oil and gas industry is very detrimental to fishing. And oil and gas exploration is only profitable because it doesn't pay for the environmental damages that it's done. So it impacts fish in particular as well. So fish would no longer, wherever oil and gas is being drilled, fish would no longer stay around because of the vibrations and the noises and stuff like that. And if that was an area, which most of the times are areas in which there are high fish biomass and stuff like that. That is why you would have this, the carbon and stuff like that being built up there. And then you have your blue economy initiatives, right? These initiatives, again, would impact fisher folks heavily, be very detrimental to fisher folks, because these blue economy initiatives, they push a lot of tourism agenda. So you have a lot of marinas being built, and a lot of again, hotels and stuff being built in the same space where fishers would function, where they would go out to make their livelihoods, where they would go fishing and stuff like that to provide for their families. And they are not necessarily aligned in what fishers want. So they don't have fishers at the forefront of their thought. All they have is tourism and stuff like that. And that, again, is detrimental to the fishing industry. And for example, these cruise ships and cruise liners and stuff like that be passing. The guys would tell you, and I could tell you that when you set your line, for example, you have your long line system set up in the water there. The cruise liners would pass and cut it, and you'd have to look for it. So you'd have to burn extra gas to find it, or you'd have to abandon it if you're not able to get it. Sometimes the cruise liner would drag it elsewhere. So, you know, all of these are impacts that would affect fisher folks. And the Blue Economy initiatives basically encourage more cruise ships and cruise liners and stuff like that. Right? So vision of sustainable fisher folk livelihoods require leadership to get there. That is something that is definite. So to get the outcome you want from sustainable fisher folks, you need to have vision, right? You need to have a long-term plan to get there. So then you'd be able to objectify your different goals and missions in alignment to that vision. The next slide. Right. Fisher folks are impacted by many other players, right? And leadership secures these interests, right? So leadership in fisher folk organizations secure value chain players, right? From different perspectives that could negatively impact fishers, right? So the leadership is definitely needed to ensure that fishers are not, in other words, they're not cheated throughout the value chain, right? They are the ones that most of the times are going out there and risking their lives. So you want to make sure that they are not, they have the equity that is deserved to them. And leadership is needed to get that done. Right? Also and you see it here, the economics and prices and stuff like that. You also need to have leadership to bargain and battle for the best prices for fishers, right? Environmental and conservation, right? You need to have leadership that would ensure that whatever environmental factors or whatever conservation methods is also aligned with what fishers want, right? So, for example, they might be pushing marine protected areas and stuff like that. Key way that fishers could be beneficiaries, or they could have a bigger stake, would be allowing them to manage whatever area you want to be you want protected, right? So they would dictate whatever activities happening there, right? So leadership secures these kinds of interests. And then you have your management and international agreements. For example, you have your SSF guidelines, small scale fisheries guidelines. These are some agreements that are positive in ensuring fisher folks are looked after. They're at the forefront of the international agencies' thoughts, the people that make a lot of the policies and laws and stuff that would dictate what happens even down to the lowest level, right? So you have to ensure that you have persons, leaders representing fisher folks at that international level, and we do, right? And then you have the small scale fisheries guidelines that entail a lot of these initiatives that you want to see happen, and a lot of the benefits that fisher folks have to contribute towards the planet and everything that is happening on the globe, right? Climate change and scientific research also impacts what happens with fisher folks, right? Because fishers are they use the marine environment. Fisher, because they use the environment, climate change have a negative impact on them, right? You're talking about the entire chain of the ecosystem, right? From the corals all the way up to the big billfish and the marlins and stuff like that. Everything is interconnected. And climate change have tipped the balance in a lot of those areas, right? And scientific research as well. A lot of the scientific research that wants to be done, they would basically compete with fishers for space and stuff like that within the marine environment. So you really want to have leadership to ensure that all of these criteria here, all of those things listed here they are secured and that their interest is at the forefront of of the objectives that you want to complete. So you have the different, as you could see in this, sorry, you could just go back here. As you can see in the value chain here, you have the different so you have fishing methods, the quality assurance, you have transportation options, packaging and processing. So you have basically the value chain here, and you would notice that the money increases as it goes up, right? As in the money made is increased as it goes up. So you could basically see the fishers here are the ones that are making the meager sum. And that shouldn't be the case since they are the ones that are risking their life a lot of the times. And to ensure that that doesn't happen, you need leadership to steer and guide the process to make sure that fishers get the maximum benefit they could get for their livelihoods and their produce and their catch and stuff like that. You just move on. Who leads fisherfolk organizations? Right? The person or person who uses their influence to enlist the support of others to achieve a shared goal or objective. Right? So the person that uses their influence to enlist the support of others to achieve a shared goal or objective, they lead fisherfolk organizations, right? Groups with poor leadership may have several different leaders, right? That's a statement of fact. Good leadership focuses the entire group on shared goals, right? So it's not one person leading, running the show, or it's not one objective or one agenda that is by one person that is running the organization or the group, right? It's a shared goal amongst all individuals, and not just at a managerial level. So not just the board of directors, but within the organizations as well, right? You have to have the goals that everybody accepts and everybody wants to see accomplished. So fishers, desired leaders. Who are desired leaders? You have movers and shakers, right? So these persons excite others with their vision, right? They get members to commit to group goals, right? They work with and align people to group aims, right? So these individuals are the ones we want to see as fisherfolk leaders. They're caretakers of group culture, values, and goals. This one is critical, right? In other words, they want to ensure that whatever cultures that will establish or whatever cultures that they create and values and goals are continued, right? So they are caretakers of those. Proceed. How is leadership carried out, right? So you have the authoritarian, autocratic type of leadership or style of leadership. The leader basically tells the group what to do and how to do it without getting advice from the members. And then you have your participative, democratic way of running a group. The leader includes one or more members in deciding what to do and how to do it. And then you have your delegative or your free reign, and that is where the leader allows members to make the decisions while providing overall guidance. So the members are the ones that making the decision while the leaders just kind of oversee what happens, right? So these are your three main ways of leadership, but there are many other ways you could lead a fisherfolk group. Many other ways leadership is carried out. You proceed. So you move to the next slide. Right? So leadership today share power with the group, right? So it's not a one-man show, right? They have multiple members that have that overall say in how the group runs, right? So that was with FFOs, for example, and with Cnfo and other Fisherfolk groups, they have a board of directors, each one being a leader of them, a leader themselves, right? So it's multiple leaders sharing that power to lead with that group, right? So they have a collaborative effort. So it's not just a one-man show. It's multiple people pulling together their skills and their competencies and different human capacities coming together to create that collaborative gel, cohesion, adhesion, meshing effort to get the job done, right? Leadership today expresses the organization's values, right? So that's why it's very key to know what your organization is about. It's very key to know your mission and your vision so that you'd be able to express those values. So when somebody sees you on the street, they'll be able to say, yes, this is the person that we wanted to be in that position, because this person exudes what we expect out of a Fisherfolk leader, what we expect out of the organization, right? And they pull together strength and talents of the team. So in other words, leaders are able to identify the different strengths and talents of the individuals on the team, right? So whether it be this person is better at public speaking, or this person is better at finances, whatever it may be, within the organization as well. So it don't necessarily have to be on the board, right? Fisher folks, basically they look after each other, and they would identify the different strengths and talents that is there within their group and body, that would help create the environment for them to succeed towards their vision, right? The Fisherfolk leadership today have a caring and positive attitude towards people. This one here is very critical, right? You need to have a caring and positive attitude towards people. I mean, people are able to identify when you don't have a caring and positive attitude, and nobody wants to follow somebody that is not caring and positive. Nobody wants to walk by their side, right? So you have to be able to, again, exude those characteristics of care and positiveness and stuff like that, even in the face of adversities, even when you're not too sure what is going to be the outcome. You as a leader have to be able to stand strong and not waver and stuff like that, so that others could see that and emulate it. They could feel that vibration, they could feel that vibe, and know that yes, this person, these individuals, they know what they're about. They are strong. They could stand the time at the tide. They could stem the wave, right? Leadership today are open about their weaknesses and are willing to admit their mistakes, right? So this one again is very critical. Only when you are able to admit your mistakes and your weaknesses are you really able to grow. Because if you don't have any weaknesses and mistakes, then I mean you know it all, or you have everything figured out. So you would basically not be able to grow or move on or progress. So leadership today are able to accept those weaknesses and their mistakes in the efforts of continuity and development, and basically being able to grow and show that yes, we are human beings, and we're able to move on and self-assess and stuff like that, where we fall short, because I mean that's real life, that's going to happen. So we just move to the next slide. Right. So when is leadership needed? So leadership is a continuum, right? Leadership is like water, it's fluid, it's always flowing, right? It's a living thing. So leadership is not today and then tomorrow you don't have leadership. Leadership is an ongoing thing. You're always going to need leaders. Or you're always going to have, or there should always be leadership, right? It's a continuum. And leadership is needed when visioning and communication. So you need leadership when you're having conversations with your members, for example, or you're having other engagements with other fishers or other groups or stuff like that. To be able to communicate, you need leaders to do that. Also, when you're creating your vision, you need leaders to come together and ratify and go back and forth when you're developing your vision. So it's not a one-man thing, you know. You would even and I remember Mitch was saying that, and I believe that. So when you're creating your vision within your organization, you don't necessarily have to just gather 4 or 5 persons, or you just go to the board or stuff like that. You would go to all the members within your organization and you would ask them to give a viewpoint, you know. So you have a holistic kind of view where everybody would have an input onto where they want to go, what they want to see happen, what they want this group to be about, right? And where they see themselves in 10, 15 years from now, or five years from now, right? So leadership is needed to be able to encompass that and carry us that to get to that point, right? And leadership is needed in inspiring individuals, right? To be able to spark that sense of feeling to want to do something, right? To kind of light that fuse in their brain to make them say, yes, we could get this done, right? And that is where motivation would come in. Leaders need to motivate their members. They need to motivate themselves as well. They need to be the most, they need to be self-motivated, right? Because if you're not self-motivated, again, people will be able to see that. So leaders need to be self-motivated, right? Leaders need to be stewards and caretakers, right? They need to have that spirit of caring. They need to be stewards of the environment. For example, fisher folk leaders need to have that caring attitude towards life, right? They need to have that caring attitude towards their members of the organization, towards other groups, right? They need to have they need to be able to have the skill of monitoring, right? So they would be able to assess when they would have fall short here, or when something would have changed. You know, if they have the skill of monitoring, then they'd be able to maybe even identify a problem before it arises, right? So that is very critical. And with monitoring, you'd be able to evaluate your situation and step forward if you have to, or step back if you have to, right? And that is where adaptive management comes in. With adaptive management, now you have the flexibility and the capacity to shift if something needs to be shifted. So if for example you would have had let's say this particular activity is being done. Let's say fishing is let's say you have this particular method of fishing that is being done, and you realize that it's not the best in this particular area. Or let's say you have this activities that is being done within the organization, and you realize, but wait, if we change this, it's going to be more beneficial, maybe not in the direct, but in the 10 years or the 5 years from now. So they need to have that, or it could be the 2 months from now, the 2 weeks from now. They need to have that skill set where they be able to adapt, right? So you don't have a straight set management plan. You would have a plan that is flexible and could bend and fold, right? Especially when you're thinking about like policies and stuff like that. You don't want to have a policy set in stone, but you want to have a policy that you could change and ratify need be if the environment changes, or if some other factors or some other players you needed to change it, right? And again, fisher leadership is needed in advocacy, right? So fisher folk leaders need to advocate for fishers' rights, for example, right? They need to be able to speak up on the behalf of fishers. They need to be able to fill the void where fisher might not be able to fit in, right, and advocate for fishers' rights. So they need to be able to speak up and do so eloquently and diligently and respectively as well, right? And that is where representation comes in. So fisher folk need representation, not just at the local level or the regional level, but beyond that, right? They need to have representation throughout the value chain, throughout the industry in different regards. They need to have somebody to combat against the people that are pushing the blue economy initiatives, who are pushing the tourism initiatives, right? They need representation throughout at all aspects. Fisher folks need representation, and you need leadership to get that done and to get it done effectively, right? So leadership is always needed for the promotion of group success. That is a statement, a fact, right? It's always needed for the promotion of group success. If you want to have a successful group, you need to have successful leadership, right? So we move on to the next slide. So this is the end of our presentation tonight. I'm happy that everybody came out to listen to me present. So you notice that there's an email on the website and the Facebook page here. So if you want to find out more about fisher folk organizations and more content about fishers and stuff like that, you could always refer to these references in the page here. But I'm really happy that everybody took the time out to come out and listen to my presentation tonight. And again, I would like to thank Mitch and Nadine for facilitating the mentoring for me being able to prepare for tonight's session. Again, fisher folks, and I want to re-emphasize this point, the leaders themselves need to be self-motivated. They need to be inspired, as fishers would be able to identify that, or anybody would be able to identify that in you, right? So you need to have that. In other words, to get people inspired and motivated, you have to be inspired and motivated yourself. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to come out of you and flow into somebody else. You wouldn't be able to show it. You wouldn't be able to live it, right? Leadership is not just I pick it up today and I drop it tomorrow. Leadership is a continuum. Leadership is a part of you, right? So you have to lead and live a leadership life, right? So again, thank you everybody for coming out. I think we have a couple questions. Okay. So just for us to spark some discussion, can anybody tell me in their words or their thoughts what they believe, where do they believe fisher folk need the most representation, or where do they think fisher folk representation is lacking the most? Whether it be in or where do they think the fisher folk representation could be developed, or the capacity could be developed? Would that be on a local level, or regional level, or international level?
Shane here from Montserrat. I honestly believe that we need to be represented, especially in the parliament, the house, the government side of things, because like we all know, these are the people that are going to actually make the law at the end of the day, after listening as well. So I think it's key that we start as fisher folks to let these, and the thing is, some of the people in government, are so well aware of our fishing environment. Some of them probably never been fishing in their entire life. So I think this is where we need to start as fisher folks, hitting them on the spot and letting them know what's happening, what needs to be done, and what they're doing that really don't make sense or needs to be worked on.
I totally agree with you here. And just to add here, like I remember we have a fisheries division in Grenada here, and I remember so like fisheries division before used to more geared towards doing things that would benefit fishers. But you notice that over the past years, they have moved to a more conservation approach and stuff like that. So
That's
they're more
true.
focused on getting MPAs passed, and they're more focused on getting buy-in from tourism and stuff like that. So even
Mhm.
the Fisheries Division, which is supposed to be the umbrella body that protects fishers' interest in those regards in parliament and stuff like that, they have moved away from fishing and more to a conservation approach. So I definitely agree with you in those regards. So we fisher folk leaders might need to feel the niche there and step up and do a little bit more. Although I do know that fisher folk leaders are definitely trying in those areas. They do try. But yeah, I do agree with you. We need to have some more efforts put into that area. Anybody else want to voice their opinion?
Hi, Mr. Joseph, Rita from St. Lucia. Great presentation this evening. I find you did well. You were able to relate to, real life situations. In regards to the question that you just asked or just tabled, I think it's across the board. So you made mention of local, national, regional, and international. I believe that we should start with us. So we do an inventory of ourselves, where we are, where we need to be, and where we're going. And we, like Shane said, we advocate for those persons in parliament because they're the policymakers. They are the one that would speak in relation to a lot of things that may affect fisher folk. So that is being local. As it relates to regional, we here tonight we have that Cnfo body. We advocate for the locals on a regional, international, and it doesn't stop there. So I think it's across the board. But as you would well appreciate, it starts with us. And I speak local, say Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, the different countries, they do as much as they can on a local body, and then we take it regional, international. So that's my contribution.
Thank you. And I totally agree with you. So my reason for asking this question was more to get those answers. I really wanted to hear everybody basically say that it's our responsibility to get it done. Right? I mean, the 21 of us here, if we were the ones to start saying, okay, we would take a stand and we'd be the, I mean, we have to, in other words, if we don't lobby or we don't push the policymakers to seek our interests, they would not. I mean, we know that.
Precisely. So
Yes.
if we keep complaining that there is a problem, and I'm just making a general statement here. If we keep complaining that there is a problem, and you keep saying it's that person's problem, you fail to realize that you are part of the problem too. And you may be adding fuel to that problem instead of taking a step back and saying, how am I contributing? Or what can I bring to the table to resolve such a problem? So those kind of things would take us forward. And in your presentation, you made mention of sustainable practices, sustainable financing. It all starts with us. What do we bring to the table to address those plagues, for lack of a better word, those problems that we're faced with? So that's from me, Aaron.
Thank you for that. And I totally agree with you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Tylon. Great presentation. Very, very simple in terms of the content. And so I hope very much so it was understandable by those of us who are in here. I just want to, in certain ways, echo the sentiments of those who have perhaps commented before me, but to highlight the fact that leadership is very important, as with any organization, just as important within our FFOs and our and Cnfo. And it starts with our local primary organizations. For us in St. Lucia, and I'm pretty sure it's perhaps a situation that exists in some of the other islands as well, is that there is a chronic issue when it comes to leadership of our fishing organizations, especially for the organizations where the membership is mostly or solely members from within the sector. So what we've seen is that some of the FOs that have opened up to consumers, for example, they have a little less, not much, but a little less of an issue with finding persons to serve in leadership capacities and leadership roles. But those of us who have remained solely fishermen's organizations, it's very difficult. I am yet to underpin the reason for the reluctance on the part of the fishers themselves to take charge of the organizations which they are part of. The only thing that I can point my finger towards is, for us in St. Lucia, I know historically there has been an issue with misappropriation and malfeasance and so on within these organizations. But I am of the opinion that we should always ask ourselves, like Rita indicated, what can you bring to the table? And so if you are part of an organization where things like that have happened whilst you are a member, the question then is, what can I do? How can I make a difference? How can I lend myself towards leading my organization so as not to create a reoccurrence of these types of problems and issues? And so saying all of that to say that it must and it has to start with us who are part of the organization. The members of the organization have to have the mindset that if the organization is to survive and thrive, that they have to take on the leadership roles within the organization. But it's also an indictment on our part as those of us who are already leaders of the organization to create an environment whereby we can create the next cohort of leaders within our organization. And I think you mentioned that in your presentation in terms of succession planning, and it takes good leaders to be able to do that. And currently, I think that there is a lapse where that is concerned, and we have to take the bull by its horn if we want these organizations, the Cnfo, the fishing sectors within our islands, to be sustainable and to continue to exist for a long time. And until I think that one of the things that we should do as Cnfo leaders is to continue to advocate, even on a greater level, of the importance of the sector, one, but not just the importance of the sector on its own, but the importance of the unified front in dealing with the issues that confront us and in being able to now find our rightful place within the greater economic scope of our islands and the region as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Very well said. Yes, I agree with you 100%. Definitely, fisher folk organizations need to have more in terms of succession planning. And the Leadership Institute, I wish it had more individuals here, where Cnfo would kind of provide that. In other words, you have to start from somewhere. If it's not done within your organization, Cnfo would be able to provide that training and instill that thought in the forefront of your mind that succession plan is important, and it's critical in continuing in other words, leadership is a continuum, and with succession planning, you'll be able to have that continuum, right? And I think that the Leadership Institute is definitely filling a niche where it's needed, where succession planning is needed. As in, if you don't have a succession plan within your organization, and there isn't a way for other leaders to be basically trained or groomed, or other individuals are being trained or groomed, you have the Leadership Institute that you'll be able to tap into, where you'll be able to get that skill set and stuff like that to groom you and train you in those regards. So I think we are making efforts to do that, even if we do need to have it in an individual setting. Each organization need to have their a succession plan, for example, where they would be able to have that, get that done. But thank you very much for that input, Kijian. It was very well. Okay. So again, I would like to thank everybody else for tonight's session, and taking the time out to listen to me. Again, I want to give a shout out to Mitch and Nadine for prepping me for tonight's session, and everybody that is on here tonight. Stay safe and healthy and away from COVID, and eat healthy fish and stuff like that. That'll be able to give you the right set of nutrients to to block it and and protect yourself. Give yourself the right micronutrients. So again, thank you for coming out, and I'm saying good night now to everyone.
Hi. I just wanted to find out, but I'll end the recording now. Let me do that.